host. So just to give a good introduction to what CreativeMornings is, we are a global platform. We exist in about 244 cities around 70 countries worldwide. So every morning, every month, not every morning, we actually host about 27,000 people. Sorry about that. We host about 27,000 people in each chapter. And yeah, all those people attend CreativeMornings. My ticker is not connecting, all the tech issues. But I also just want to introduce our volunteer team for Johannesburg. All these people that you see really put in the effort and the time and their skills to make CreativeMornings possible for us here in Johannesburg. When it comes to the CreativeMornings manifesto, it really encapsulates what CreativeMornings is about. It really talks about the values of CreativeMornings and what we actually believe in. This is our manifesto. We really believe in creativity, in community and connection, and obviously inspiration, which is what our events are all about. So we really encourage everyone to come to CreativeMornings, and everyone is absolutely welcome to our talks. And a quick high five to our partners. Adobe is our global partner for CreativeMornings, and they make sure that everyone is connected to all the software and platforms that we need to, I guess, run the creative juices and run the CreativeMornings talks that we have. 1410 is our local production partner. They have been with us from the beginning, really, and they take care of everything, audio-visual, photography, post-production for our chapter, so thank you to 1410. And then we've got Serve Fruit, who are our breakfast beverage partner, and they obviously supply us with all the juicy bits and the smoothies that we have this morning. So if you're not a coffee person, you can absolutely have a refreshing drink from Serve Fruit. And WeWork, who obviously open their doors to us every month. We host our sessions here, so our next event will also be here. WeWork has kindly been hosting us for CreativeMornings for the past couple of months. So thank you to them for being gracious in that respect. And then I wanted to talk a bit about our CreativeMornings global survey. So every year we aim, as all global chapters, we aim to get to know our attendees, you guys, a lot more. So please, when you do get time, go onto our socials, we'll obviously add this to our newsletters as well. Just answer the survey. It doesn't take more than 5-10 minutes, so that we can get to know more about you, what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see from us, and just to help us to raise our thoughts a bit better, and we do in mind, obviously. And our being introduced right now is Journey. Journey was selected by our online chapter and was illustrated by Salim Al-Salami. Every month we have a different theme here at CreativeMornings. It's usually a one-word theme, but we connect to it as loosely or as tightly to it as we can. So Journey is our theme for Jan. And that is what Keith will actually touch on as he talks to us this morning. So please have journeys in mind, journeys of life, journeys of any kind, different pathways, different cross-sections. Have that in mind when you listen to the session today. And introducing Keith. Keith is a spectacular life designer who aims to connect with people through creativity, through and really understanding how people work and how they design their life. His talk today, I'm not going to give too much away, but he'll really dive into how to kind of connect and navigate life. And with that, I'm just going to hand over to Keith, and he will drive from here on.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Ntombi. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I think, as Ntombi said, my name is Keith Kunene, and I'm a life designer. A lot of the times, people ask me what exactly a life designer is, and in my case, I love the idea of being a life coach. I've been trained as a life coach, but I'm very connected to the idea of creativity because I think at the end of the day, we're all creators, right? So I think a lot of the times we have this idea that creativity is the segment that just belongs to a special group of people in society that, you know, are these weirdos and they like heretics and with beautiful hairstyles and, you know, garments. But I think everyone actually has the ability to be a creative. And I think if we tap in really into our callings, we find that there's a lot of creativity that exists in there. So just wanted to start there. There was a bit of a glitch with the presentation, but I think we're connected now, so we'll go ahead with the presentation, okay? So the topic that I want to discuss with you guys today is the Sandbox Theorem for self-creators. And I think, you know, I really want to have this as a more of a discussion more than just me guys, you know, presenting to you guys. I really want to have a conversation, right? And if we find those opportunities where you think, hey, let me actually add to this conversation, please just raise your hand and we'll go through that, okay? Cool, so we want to have an open mind to actually go through this conversation, and this is a no shame free zone, okay? So if there's anything that you might be potentially dealing with in your own personal capacity that you want to share, just be confident of the fact that we'll hold the space for you in this session today, okay? So no shame free zone, we'll keep it tidy. A little bit about me. This is a movie, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't know if anybody has seen the movie. Has anyone seen the movie? Yes? And you know, this movie was quite pivotal in my experience because when it happened, when I actually watched the movie, I was going through a divorce. And I was actually mentoring at a company called Umuzi. I have one of the Umuzi, 2 graduates from Umuzi here today, actually, that were part of my cohorts when I was mentoring there. But I was going through, as much as a beautiful experience that I was going through at Umuzi, I was actually going through a divorce as well. So I had, you know, these students that were trying to essentially get into a creative field that I had to kind of mentor and usher in to that space whilst holding a divorce at home. So I was kind of like living in these 2 very, you know, opposite worlds, so to speak, which caused a lot of chaos in my world, but I had to kind of find the ways to move through the very difficult time that I was faced with. And when I experienced this movie, you know, in the divorce, I remember that there was a scene in the movie where this guy literally goes through this beautiful meandering path in the mountains of Scandinavia. And you guys are agreeing, right? You've seen the scene. And he stands on this path and he kind of just looks at this beautiful meandering path. But this volcano is erupting everywhere, right? There's literally, it kind of like felt like my life was exploding in every different way. But here's this path that I absolutely have to take, which is through the volcanoes. And he stands there, every single car is going in the opposite direction, right? But he has a mission. He has a mission to find this photographer who was basically involved in photographing these very extinct animals. So he has to absolutely take on this mission, but there's volcanoes erupting everywhere. So what does he do? He decides to take a longboard or a skateboard, right? People call it a skateboard, but you know, I'm a longboarder, so we use the proper terms. He took his longboard and he literally just put some rocks on his palms. He tied those rocks with a tie, and he just went through this meandering path over to the other side. I'm not going to spoil the movie for people that actually want to see it, but the metaphor that existed in the movie was that this is my life. These are all the explosions that are happening, and I absolutely have to gracefully go through this path, right? And I remember that the next day after that, I went and got a longboard. This is actually me. That's me over there on the right. Having the time of my life, right? Longboarding. And the metaphor existed in so many ways, but I think the fact that I was 39 years old when I learned how to longboard. Usually people skate at a very young age, like 13 years old, 11, 10, whatever the case is. I was 39, and I could have broken bones. At some points, I think I sprained like 2 ankles, right? And I was kind of like limping. I don't know if you saw me at Umuzi, I was walking like this, you know, almost broke my back. But all these volcanoes were erupting in my life, and I had to absolutely walk gracefully through the stuff of life at the time, right? And I think from that point, I understood the mission. The character in the movie had a particular mission to go to the other side and find something very useful. In my case, my mission was to find my own purpose, right? And at the time, the students that I was actually mentoring actually saved my life in a very beautiful way. You know, they're here today, having their own beautiful careers, but they saved my life because there was something in them that touched me in the sense that they were finding their own purpose in the way that they could interface with the world in a very creative way, in a way that they can offer themselves in an authentic way, right? And I understood that the mission works because I work, right? It's not the other way around. I don't have to wait for the mission to work. I actually have to put in the work to make the mission work. And I actually made a little bit of a joke here to say it works because we work, because, you know, we work. So who is this I that we are referring to? Okay, I always ask this question because I think it's critical that we understand the I, right? What is this I that we're actually referring to when we talk about ourselves? This is a video that I think explains it quite beautifully for me. I don't know if anybody reads Deepak Chopra. Yes. Deepak Chopra actually talks about this idea that, you know, we think about the soul and the spirit as something that is inside of us. But he actually shifts the idea around and he says, we are the spirit, and we have this beautiful aura that exists, and our bodies are actually inside of us. It's not the other way around, right? And that idea for me completely shifted how I think about how to move through space. Because what happens is that when you think of yourself in that way, as this beautiful, energetic, vibrational energy that is always existent all around you, right? You think about how that connects with other people. You think about how that connects with the things that are outside of you that you might want to achieve, that you might want to attain, right? All these dreams that you put outside of your own personal space, and they're sitting over there. You think about how that's actually not even there. It's right here, right? Because everything is connected. Everything is already inside of you. So this for me is an illustration of who we really are in our deepest essence. And I love this idea that actually Tony Robbins talks about this idea, and I'm actually going to read a statement that Tony Robbins put up. He says, where focus goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, whatever you're focusing on grows. In other words, your life is controlled by what you focus on. That's why you need to focus on where you want to go, not what you fear. And I want to do a bit of an exercise with you guys. If I say, don't think of a red dot. Is anybody not thinking of a red dot right now? Think of the red dot, right? Because in language, when we say don't think, your subconscious mind is not picking up the words don't. It's actually everything that you place in that sentence, red dot. Subconscious mind takes that and literally puts it in your sphere. So that's why I love this, this quote by Tony Robbins, because you're effectively applying your mind to the place where you want to go, and not necessarily everything that is fearful around that space. And I love this metaphor by Simon Sinek, who talks about skiers when they're actually skiing through the trees in the mountain, right? So there's an element of, oh my God, can I swear here, by the way? Oh shit. Oh shit, I'm gonna hit a tree, right? Like, the reason that these skiers are going through this forest with such grace is that they're not thinking about the trees. They're thinking about the path. Because the trees are there. And the trees are there in their right place. All the obstacles that ever jump out at you are actually there in the right place. They're the trees. But when you are thinking about the path and not the trees, you're more than likely to follow the path and actually hit a tree. Right? And I love this metaphor, right? Because, yeah, this is an animation. Focus on the path, the obstacle is in its right place. Napoleon Bonaparte actually said, I focus only on the objective, the obstacle must give way. And I love that statement and that essence. So this really brings us to understanding how energy works, because if you think about a magnet, for example, when I was a kid, I used to play with magnets all the time, and I'd place the magnets under the table and control these little sand particles of steel, and you literally could see this sort of arrangement of formation around the electromagnetic fields around the magnet. And this is, it might seem like a very simple and a very sort of esoteric idea, but essentially our energy operates in the same way. Our energy is always following our electromagnetic fields, right, where we focus on. Bob Proctor talks about the electronic switching station, which is the mind, right? The mind being this idea that can choose an idea or that can reject an idea. So in choosing an idea, you're effectively magnetizing yourself towards that idea. In rejecting that idea, you essentially take it out of your sphere. So energy and thought energy, there's different kinds of energies. There's thought energy, there's collective energy, there's subconscious energy, there's movement energy. But at the end of the day, the principles are the same, right? Because they effectively operate on where the focus is going. Okay. So, the proverbial question, why are we here? And what I mean by here, I'm not talking about this office space, this beautiful space that the team at WeWork has created, but why are we here? Why are we on this physical plane? Why do we have this energy that we're carrying, right? Why are we such energy carriers? I've personally asked myself that question a lot of the times, and usually people think about work. Oh, I'm here to work. I've been sent through lifetimes of reincarnations just to work. But actually, is that why we're here? My belief is that we're here to create. Whether that creation comes in work or it comes in other forms, at the end of the day, we're here to create because we're creators in our being. The word itself, I think we spoke a little bit about creation and creativity and creators in the beginning of this talk. I found such an interesting interpretation of this word. It actually comes from the Latin root, which is creare. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I was never born in those areas. But the word creare basically means to bring forth, to produce, to make, right? You're essentially bringing something that never existed before into light. So you're carrying, it's almost like a filter. I always talk about, ourselves as a filter. If you think of yourself as this filter that kind of just siphons this intelligent and divine energy that is always present everywhere all the time and bringing that energy into a physical form. That's the act of creation, essentially. So creativity, in a sense, is a way to really see ourselves as contributors in this process of bringing something from nothing into something. Okay? And I love that because if I can talk a little bit, just a tiny smidgen about some of my history. I've worked in advertising for a long time, and I started in advertising as a copywriter, and then I moved into a strategy, and I kind of just shifted eventually to client service, which is, if anybody knows advertising, client service is like, those guys who wear suits, okay, don't touch those guys. They are not creative, right? But my process is I've actually found that creativity can come from anywhere. Anybody can be creative. And I've actually, I've seen the 360 sphere of how to create. And I've also seen how people hold creativity in different ways. Some people hold it with, I've got this beautiful idea that, I might want to write down. Some people hold it with music. Some people hold it with creating business ideas. Some people hold it with, jumping into a pool, whatever the case is, right? But there's the idea here is that everybody's a creator. It's not just a segment of society that is creative. This, I love this diagram. It's not nude, but this is the Vitruvian Man. And what I wanted to talk about here is the fact that as humans, we're actually the one species on this planet that is able to affect our environment. If you look at the animal kingdom, they really adapt to the environment. It's like bees live here, dogs live here, whatever the case is, owls live here. But humans, for some reason, we just find a way to move around and just create stuff, right? I need a house. Okay, I'm going to draw the house down and create a foundation. I need to move to a different geographical location. I'll create a plane, right? So we're always involved with this idea of affecting our environment in a way that is creative. And what I love about this is that there's almost like a mental energy that exists that is always with us, that allows us to be able to create the things that we want to create. So again, I ask the question, what sacred act are we here to participate in? At this point, I actually want to ask the audience, does anybody know what they're here to participate in? What creative act that you've been brought here for? Remember, guys, I said it's a shame-free zone. Okay. I believe mine is, when I was mentoring those students at Umuzi, years later, I actually discovered that process brought me into a space of life design, right? Which was, a lot of the feedback that I used to get from people is that you're actually good at finding the things that people are interested in and helping them see the thing that they're interested in, and therefore bring it into the world, right? And it's a difficult process, guys. It took me forever to even find that about myself. Even when I was at Umuzi, and I was there for 2 years, at the end of the process, I still didn't know, right? I still didn't know. It's only years later when I was literally this close to living on the streets after losing a business and going through a divorce, that actually something ticked and said, hey, you're here to do something. You're here to actually create something, right? And I try and help to facilitate these spaces for people to be able to find that within themselves. And it's a very, very, very delicate process. And sometimes people, get very emotional about actually finding the space about themselves. So I get it when it's a difficult thing to even answer, right? It's a very, very big question. I love this idea that Khalil, I don't know if anybody reads any Khalil Gibran, but there's a book called The Prophets, and in that book he has all these beautiful quotes and poems and musings. I see you smiling. You've clearly read Khalil. And, this quote is, work is love made visible. Absolutely one of my favorite quotes ever, because again, we spoke about work earlier on, but it's almost like he's bringing the idea of work into a very beautiful space. It's not just about grafting and kind of just going through the day. It's like really bringing your love into it and making that visible. And that's very much connected into, I call them inclinations, right? Or the things that are so connected to you that you can do them with your eyes closed. Somebody could wake you up in your sleep and you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this, right? So in my case, I love this quote because it brings us, if I can just go to the next slide, there's an element of, I want to read this. It says, to create is to bring forth that which you love from the ethereal to the material. So what we spoke about, ourselves as filters, if we're looking at ourselves as this body of mass that is just there to filter all this collective energy that we have around us and bring it into physical light. Sometimes we use our creativity for good, but it's not always the case, right? I think for me, my process has always been, how do I connect to the parts of myself that can actually connect to others? And in the path that I've chosen as a life designer, it's really that. It's really how do I make sure that I maximize my input for the benefit of others. Now, I'm hoping that this process actually, helps you find that for yourself as well. So, again, I'm a father, I'm a student of life, I'm a longboarder, I'm an aspiring farmer, I'm a wellness experience creator, but most of all, I'm a life designer. And my quest or my mission, or what I call my life mission, is to actually help 10,000 plus, I know it's a big number, it's to help 10,000 plus self-enterprising individuals create a life by design through purpose, play, and prosperity. And one of the things that, this statement actually, or this articulation of who I think I am, comes from some of my teachings that I've received from some of my coaches. Bob Proctor talks about three types of goals, right? There's an A-type goal, a B-type goal, and a C-type goal. The A-type is where you think you can achieve something, like something that you've done before, like buying a car or house, whatever it is. You already know how to do those things. So it's not to say that you can't have those types of goals, but it's easy to get them. So there's almost like there's no excitement in actually going for an A-type goal, right? Not to say you shouldn't go for them. And then there's a B-type goal, which is something that you need a little bit of strategy or a little bit of thinking to be able to say, okay, if I make 1, 2, 3 steps, I'm able to attain this goal as well. And then there's the C-type goal, and that goal is rooted in fantasy, right? It's rooted in imagination, which is, when I think about imagination, it's really the root of where all creativity begins, right? When you can imagine something and you sort of work with that imagination, you bring it into theory, then you bring it into fact, then you're able to create it. And that type of goal, for me, has always been the exciting part of being a human being, because when you create from an element of fantasy, I want to help 10,000 plus people. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I absolutely don't. But the idea here is not to know about the how. It's not to concern yourself about the how. Right? Because, and I'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of this, is to concern yourself about the excitement. What kind of excitement does this type of goal actually bring to who I am and what I want to bring to the plate? And I always encourage people that I coach to actually have those C-type goals. Yes, you can have the little A-type and B-types along the way, but if you're not inspired, if you don't have that big goal that is based on fantasy, right, what are you doing? You're not excited, right? You're kind of just going through the day-to-day. So I encourage you to have your C-type goal, and again, I actually facilitate, I'm currently going on a Wellness Wednesday process this entire year. Last year I did a 24-day life mission process where I help people articulate their life mission and basically find their C-type goal. So this year, every Wellness Wednesday, I've basically given myself to an hour off that day to essentially help people to do this for themselves. And back to the topic of journey. I think everything has been about the journey, right? But I think, and again, thank you to Ntombi and the Creative Morning teams for this invitation. I actually remember attending Creative Mornings at the Market Theatre. I don't know if any of you ever been to that. And it was like one of the most exciting times to wake up to on a Friday morning and go to Creative Mornings. It was just a pleasure because you saw all these people that were giving off themselves and just wanting to contribute in a very special way to a community of creatives that wanted to grow. And I remember saying to myself, I'm one day going to talk at Creative Mornings. And here I am. I'm here today talking to, and I didn't even know at that point, what I wanted to talk about. Dimple?
On that note, I think
Let me give you the mic, sorry. There's one there. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. On that note, my friend was asking this morning if it's my first time being a Creative Morning. I was like, actually, it's my second. The first was many years ago with Keith, and it's such a full circle moment to actually be here for the second time, and it's him that's speaking. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was.
I remember that, yes. Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. Round of applause, by the way. That's incredible. Actually, I was talking to Ntombi before this a couple of weeks ago exactly about that, and I actually reached out to Creative Mornings and said, hey, I want to contribute to this community because I see it as a thriving community of people that actually want to contribute, right, that actually want to grow. So, yeah, I think I brought this up here to just bring it back to the fact that we're all on a journey of progression, and consistently, if we look at ourselves in that way, we're always progressing, right? Every time, something comes in your spirit and says, just think of where you are now. You always find that you're always progressing, always. Okay. So I want to go back. My journey, was very much about this fear of failure. That's me falling on my longboard, almost breaking ankles, and for me to even take the sport of longboarding at such an old age was really to confront my fear of failure. And I've learned so much from longboarding. I encourage you guys to take up a sport or some kind of adventure that has something to do with, really just going at your fears. I really encourage you to do that, because in the process of going through them and literally mastering every single part of that process, you can actually use that stuff in life, right? And I think, my fear of failure was falling, because I'm so tall. I don't know if you guys can notice, but I'm 6'2". And falling, it's a long way down, okay? So, which brings me to again, the idea of the Sandbox Theorem for self-creators. I found this term, sandbox, quite interesting, because in technology, they actually talk about the sandbox as this, and I'm going to read this and I'll kind of try and decipher it. An isolated virtual machine in which potentially unsafe software code can execute without affecting network resources or local applications. I want to see if I actually decoded that. Yeah, there you go. This is my decoding of that, okay? It's what essentially that is, for me, is this little sand pit. And if we think ourselves as little kids, right, that are playing on the beach or outside the house, you've got this little sand pit that just, belongs to you, and you're allowed to just play. You're allowed to imagine. You're allowed to absolutely do everything that you can without the fear of failure, okay? If you think about little kids, no kid actually walks into a situation and thinks, I'm going to fail. You never see that. It's only adults that think of that. Imagine that, right? We have so much more experience than our kid selves, but we walk into situations thinking, we're going to fail, right? And, the thing I love about this is that if we go back to the technological sort of development space, it's really just an allowance or a space to actually fail, because in those failures, you're able to determine or find solutions to actually get over the failures, right? You're able to see the weak spots, you're able to see where progression can happen. And I think, for me, the idea of the sandbox is something that we can use in our lives. And for me, personally, I use it as an allowance to play, to literally play. At the heart of playing is being boundless, is to be without a fear of failure. That's what play means to me. Yes, there's the element of play where I get to longboard and play tennis and surf and do all these beautiful things. But in life, it really means, how do I actually apportion a certain part of my mental capacity to play and to be adventurous in everything that I do without fearing that I'll fail? Does anybody resonate with that? Yes? Do you want to say something about that? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think.
Oops. Do you wanna use this one? Okay. Okay. Is it the speaker? Okay, do you want to maybe just, I think it's a small room. Do you want to just, yeah. Oh, okay.
I think two things.
But often as a solopreneur and as a creative, and with all of this whole life of when you ask like your sacred mission, we, in this whole new world of AI and it's going to replace people and people are not important anymore, etc., etc. I think part of that, just what you're bringing, that sacred mission, is reminding ourselves as creatives that we need to remain human. We need to remain connected, and part of that sacred mission is just reminding others that your life and your creativity and your originality matters, because it's really easy to forget in the bigger scheme of things and to get so caught up by I'm a failure because I haven't done X, Y, Z. But I was just saying to my sister this morning that in even trying to face something like AI, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just taken that term of I've got to learn to be curious, because the gap between I can do this and I can't and failure is so much bigger, whereas curiosity and play is so crucial to just breathing and living and getting on a skateboard or buying a boogie board and trying, whether you swallow a lot of seawater or not.
Yeah.
That creative active play is so life-giving that, we feel we're stupid when we want to play.
Yeah.
Because you ask others, like, what brings you joy or how do you play in life? And as an adult, it's very hard to even answer the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the new theories of trauma are coming out that, like, part of dealing with trauma is learning to play again.
Yeah.
Which is so, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And here. I've actually swallowed a few gallons of seawater myself and crashed and got into what they call the washing machine in surfing. But yeah, it's incredibly important for us to find that play, to find that spirit of adventure. And actually, I've got a slide coming up that talks exactly about that. But yeah, I think, again, the sandbox for me, in my personal capacity, I use it as a way to play. And after, experiencing play consistently, you find that you become so much more lighter, right? You become like, you're not the serious person that just walks into rooms and makes everybody want to fear you. Like, what is that, right? You're human. You're a beautiful human being. You're here to create. And, again, it's to walk confidently into the unknown. Topic for another day, but you get it. So actually, this is the slide. I wanted, the music is not on, but essentially Elizabeth Gilbert talks about, this sort of ridiculous expectation that we kind of put on ourselves: follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. And she talks, I can't play it now because the sound is not going to be audible, but she says the best advice that she's ever received is to actually follow your curiosity. Because passion, it's like this huge thing, right? It's this godly sent thing that just comes over everybody. But not everybody can actually have that access to always following your passion. But with curiosity shows up every day. You can be curious about something small or big right now, right? And she talks about the idea that if you're following your curiosity, you're actually putting so many opportunities in front of you just by living in curiosity. You're literally living from a space of opportunity. Everything is an opportunity because you're following that sense of wonder about yourself. Okay? And, I love this because it's not about blind faith, right? One of my coaches always talks about faith and how we sometimes, we kind of look at faith as this blind thing that we follow. But Robert Russell actually says success reduced to its lowest and simplest terms is faith expressed in action. And what I love about this is that, you're not just following a path without knowing. Yes, you might not know the how, but you're actually following the path, knowing in your own soul, in your spirit, that the next step will reveal itself as you put the step on. I call it the magic staircase. And it's a position of living that allows you to really see the thing before seeing it, right? To believe that it's going to happen before you even see it.
Sorry, Keith. I'm just having a bit of an internalization of it.
Yes.
The mere fact that we're saying that faith is what leads us into believing that success is actually going to be realized. Are we not forcing things by trying to find a purpose and define what my life should be? Isn't that kind of a contradiction in itself?
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. So are you saying that there's almost like, it's invisible, so I'm trying to define it for myself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way that I see faith, it's, when I talk about the magic staircase, which I'm actually writing about this, is that when you take a big step, the 1,000 miles, we speak about the 1,000 miles, it's not about seeing the entire picture. It's about taking that first step and knowing that when you take the next step, even though you can't see it, it will appear as it needs to, right? But it's not saying to yourself, I'm just going to kind of just walk through. It's that confidence to know that whatever sources and angels that you have around you will actually carry you, right? And that belief is it's very subtle. because lots of people kind of, they struggle with this. I used to struggle with it. I used to struggle with this idea, I remember, and I'll tell you a bit of a story. There was retrenchments at a company that I worked for. And 2 months into those retrenchments, I got a notice to say I'm going to be retrenched, right? And I remember having this sour feeling in my stomach, thinking, oh my gosh, I've got kids, I've got all these responsibilities, how am I going to do this, right? But something in me just said, just relax, just relax. I've never been so relaxed in my entire life. And I remember the people in management at the time actually fought for me to stay in that position. But the fact that they fought for me, right, yes, it was a good nod to say, oh, you're doing good work. But actually what was happening is that there was a signal. I was being sent a sign to actually do the thing that I'm supposed to do, which is life design, which is coaching, right? So I had to believe that this is what I'm actually supposed to do, and actually make the decision myself afterwards to leave, even though they fought for me. So it's a very subtle thing, and building faith is a process in itself. It's something that we do in our work to try and help people actually build their belief and build their faith. Okay. Does that answer your question?
I think it's going to be a constant transformation, but I think it begins to plant the seed of it is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm going to go back to this quote. Cool. I just want to go back to the quote, so I'll come to you. Success reduced to its lowest, simplest terms is faith expressed in action. Do you see how that starts to build up? Right? Because by the act of literally practicing faith. You get it? Okay. Okay, cool.
So, a friend of mine describes faith as belief with the absence of proof. And I find that so exact, because it is in the absence of proof that something can exist or does already exist that belief becomes faith. And the connection between faith, being belief with the absence of proof, is courage. Because it's very difficult to believe when there's no proof that what you believe in is ever going to be successful or ever going to materialize into something, ultimately that you want. It's very difficult to have faith or belief without courage.
Absolutely.
It's a fundamental ingredient.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's a process, guys. It's work, right? Sometimes it can be light work, sometimes it can be heavy work, depending on your own interface and how you really see yourself. And I think how you see yourself can actually change. We actually hosted a retreat. When was it? When was the retreat? In September. Yeah, September. He came to our retreat. And I can't remember who it was who asked this question, but they were asking about belief, right? And I remember saying to them that when you actually look at your beliefs, they're almost like an operating system that kind of like is coded, right? It's like a code that sits somewhere. But when you start to review it over and over and over again, you start to find that your belief system can change. So what you believe about yourself now can actually change, right? Because by observing it and actually saying, do I really believe that? Or is there something else that actually works for me that I can encode into my belief system, right? That's the process. That's the work essentially that we do. Okay. So, and this kind of living is really just a way for us to shift from a victim mentality into a master mentality. Right? That energy that we spoke about earlier, if you think about this ball of energy that exists around you, it's almost like that's the master and you're observing your body, right? And you can send your body into space to get the things that you want, right? To effectively contribute in the way that you want to contribute. So I find it, it's the subtleties are there. So it's to really just understand that you are the creator and the designer of your story. Again, that's me skating, guys. Cool shot, right? So I want to leave you, it's coming to the end of this exploration. We will have maybe a conversation or two after this, but I want to give you just 3 quick snapshots, or I guess theorems for your sandbox, right? For your own personal sandbox. The first one, this is theorem number 1. I call it the Guardian of the Galaxy, okay? Again, Guardian of the Galaxy, the movie, has anybody seen it over here? Cool, so there's the swordsman who kind of sits, at the pearly gates and lets everybody in or out, right? So he's the decider. And the way that I see this is that if you look on the right, this is a diagram of, who we are, essentially, right? So I know it's like 2-dimensional, but yeah, just work with me. If you think of the circle at the top, you've got the mind, right? Yes, the mind is not necessarily, and we'll talk about this at another time. Your mind is actually, Bob Proctor says your mind is movement and your body is the manifestation of the movement. So in that case, your mind is actually everywhere. So all your cells are your mind because they send the body forward, right? But if we just like simplify it for a moment, you have the conscious mind at the top, and then you have the subconscious mind, which is sitting at the bottom. The conscious mind it has the ability to accept or reject, okay? If you say, hey, you're beautiful, or hey, you're ugly, the conscious mind can say, yes, I accept that, or I'm ugly, or no, I don't accept that, I'm actually beautiful, right? It has that ability. The subconscious mind does not have the ability to accept or reject. Everything that gets impressed upon the subconscious mind must be expressed, and it gets expressed through the body, okay? So effectively, when we talk about the Guardian of the Galaxy, we're saying your conscious mind is your guardian. So it must always be alert. If an idea comes into its sphere, it can either accept or reject, okay? And we can talk about the subconscious mind another time, but effectively, you just understand that your subconscious mind, or your conscious mind rather, is the place that says, nope, I accept or I reject this idea, okay? The second theorem is autosuggestion. And, we know this in our modern times as affirmations, okay? And Bob Proctor actually talks about this as well. A lot of coaches do. But it's the idea of suggestibility, right? How suggestible are you to new ideas? In other words, if I'm affirming something within myself and I repetitively do this, I can change my beliefs and I can encode new ideas of how to operate with my operating system. I actually want to give you guys an auto-suggestion that I use quite often, and it says, I am increasingly expanding in love, abundance, health, and success. And I use that all the time, right? And there's a way to use that to actually work with the conscious mind where you say it and then you sit back and you listen to the negative voice that tries to negate the statement, right? So you say it and then you wait for the voice. And the voice says, you're not all that. It happens all the time, right? But then you consistently say that. By doing so, you're effectively using the power of autosuggestion to recode that mental program that has been inserted, okay? Theorem number 2. Theorem number 3, praxis. One of my favorite ones. This is the integration of belief with behavior. We had a question about faith. And it's really about not just believing something, but integrating your behavior into your belief system. So working with those two as an integrated system, not just, I believe this, and you just kind of sit there and wait for things to happen. Right? You behave as if it's already done. Okay, those are 3. And again, I do this for a living, guys. So if you want to connect on a different time, please do. But I just wanted to leave you with these 3. And I want to leave you with this quote that says, "You don't create abundance; it is always there. You create limitations." Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. You can actually, if you want to connect with me on Instagram, you can literally just click that or take what do they say in these new age times? Take a screenshot. No, you don't take a screenshot. You scan it, yes. Scan the QR code and you'll be able to connect with me on Instagram. You can type the word Sandbox on a post that I just put up to participate in a survey, and I'll ask you a few questions. If you want to connect, we can do that, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Questions?
I pulled a lot of mantras that I'm going to meditate on.
I'm going to try just project my voice. Keith, thank you so much for the talk. I think this was very inspirational. I think a lot of food for thought. I don't know if there are any questions, comments. I know we've had a couple of discussions as you presented. And I know Keith is also open to conversation after the session. So if you're too shy, Keith is around for a bit and he's happy to connect to further talk about what he does. But just from us, Creative Mornings team and our community, thank you for making time to be with us and tell us about your journey. It's very inspiring, and yeah, you're definitely a friend of Creative Mornings.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is
Cool.
just a gift from us. To say
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna switch this
Are
off.
there any questions, discussions? Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm opening it up. If you guys don't be shy. We are done, so you can. Yeah, we're done. You can have the conversations.
Well, we can just converse afterwards. I think there's a hand there. Yeah.
Yeah, Keith, thank you very much. I thought it was very interesting. I've got a question though. You talked about play and the importance of play, and I get that. I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Dr. Tara Swartz, who wrote The Source. And what she speaks about is when you do things, because you also spoke about acting outside of faith. And she speaks about neuroplasticity, which means that if you do things that you've never done before, you open up the pathways in the brain. I like the use of the word theorems in terms of you have these three. So the first one I think I missed, and you spoke about autosuggestion and praxis. As we leave today, can you give us 3 prompts in terms of the topic is journey, so it's a path. I came here today because after I leave you, I'm actually going to go and do my vision board for the year. So I love the whole wording behind this because I thought it was serendipitous that this is happening and this was the day we had planned to do our vision board. So I'd like 3 prompts from you in terms of how do I start or we start this journey for this year. So it makes it very practical. You spoke of autosuggestion, and I thought of that being as an affirmation. But give us 3 prompts. I'd really like that.
Okay. Can I think about the prompts?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Cool. Thank you for, I love your hair, by the way.
Because I love yours. Great to have you.
Cool. I want to think about 3 prompts for you. Yeah. Is there anybody else who wants to ask a question, have a comment? Yes.
I love that you're going to go through your vision board because I think that maybe we all in some way in our own vision board through this.
Yeah.
I'm in an interesting phase of my life where I'm in a creative and mother.
Creative and a mother.
And another.
Nice.
Mothering has been a huge part of my life, and my youngest son is just finished a so I am free.
Yes. I've got 4 more years.
So you relate to that feeling of
Yeah.
you're always doing 2 things when you're a parent. Of course, parenting continues forever, but that very necessary immediate parenting for me has come to an end, which I'm so excited about. And so I want to thank you because this morning for me has also been in my own vision boarding and my own trying to now start my creative career again, even though I have kind of freelanced my way through. So yeah, lots to think about. So thank you so much.
Ah, amazing. Thank you. Thanks. Actually, I have 1 prompt for you for now. Can I give you one?
Yeah.
There's this sentiment that I learned from a coach called Jesse Elder. Is sometimes can be very controversial, but you know he has this thing where he says, "What you appreciate appreciates," and I've used that sentiment for the past couple of years. What it stands for me is, you know, we talk about gratitude, right? And how to actually move through life. When you appreciate something, even no matter how small it is, it actually builds up in value, right? So anything that you appreciate will eventually appreciate. And when you appreciate it even more, it grows even further, right? So to live with that kind of gratitude every day is actually a game changer. It has been a game changer for me because I think I said, in this talk that at some point when I lost my business and I went through a divorce, I was literally this close to living on the streets, and I had to shift around, right? I had to exercise a part of myself that was going to create all this momentum to go in the direction that I actually want to go, right? And gratitude was a game changer for me. The smallest things, thank you, but really connecting to that thank you, right? Not just, thank you for the sake of saying thank you, but connecting to the thank you that you're sending out. You find that, you'll grow exponentially. Okay, that's one. Cool, yes. Zama.
Yes. I just want to say, yesterday I was chatting to my somatic therapist actually about how I'm realizing that it's fear that has been stopping me like a lot from doing the things I become one. Like, you mentioned the passion and the curiosity. It's always been like, what I'm passionate about, what I'm passionate about, and then I'm too scared to actually do the thing. And I've been thinking a lot about how I can't remember the last time I did a thing scared. I think I was like maybe back in school when there was, okay, if you do it, it's just But like ever since, it's like I haven't done a thing scared if I cannot actually control the outcome. And I think also just being in the workspace, I feel like, it's just killed my creativity. But I've been reminding myself that the creativity has always been there, it's like in me. So it has been that journey of kind of healing the inner child. So being here feels like that magic step, and my boss kind of...
What? Wow, that's incredible. Who's your boss? Okay. Please send her a thank you. Please. That's incredible. I love that. Actually, funny, on the topic of inner child revival, we are planning something with CreativeMornings for later on in the year. A process called inner child revival, which I'm happy to facilitate. So, maybe there's something in there for you. Yeah. Absolutely. Cool.
Thanks,
Cool.
This was incredible.
We're going to close it off there. Have a good day.